This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is. How you feeling, my man? You hanging in there?
Hanging in there, brother. Got my girls at home for Christmas break, so they got me up at all hours watching movies with them and playing video games, and so it's a good time. It's a good way to welcome the new year.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's talk about bad stuff. How about last night, man? What'd you think of what you saw last night?
Yeah, unfortunate part of the game, right? I mean, this is the part nobody really wants to see. It's the fact that it really is life and death out there with some of these hits and some of these health issues that some of these guys might have. The one thing I will say, is these athletes. I mean, they go through all kinds of testing. They have all kinds of things checked out beforehand, and this is just an unfortunate situation. He got hit and his body reacted, and it just scary moment for everybody to remind you just how violent this game can be, and how really, I mean, we're all just human beings underneath those pads and those helmets. Anything can happen to you.
Yeah, no, it's and listen, we can't be critical of anything. This is something that's never happened before. It's hard to make every right move at this moment, but I think overall they did handle it pretty much as well as you possibly could. And I think what everybody has done is the right thing. The focus has been on the person, which has actually been really cool in this whole process. That's what it should be. It should be about Damar and nothing else right now.
Sure, absolutely. I think and I think ultimately, the time to make bigger decisions about football and what's safe and what isn't, all those kind of things are discussions down the road. Right now, what matters the most is this young man who's only 24 years old that I watched play at against the University of Miami several times. A very good player at Pittsburgh. That he's able to recover from this, and obviously there's been other guys who have had similar situations in other sports. Certainly, it's happened at the high school level here. It's happened at college level. Guys will get rushed to the hospital with this kind of thing. It's just this is the first time it's ever happened. On Monday Night Football in front of an audience as big as it was last night, and so it scares the hell out of everybody. But it's a reminder again, just the fact that these guys really are putting their lives on the line when they go out there to play sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's where we got to take a little bit of a step back at times to see the sacrifices that are being made there, and obviously they're life threatening sometimes. The sacrifices that these players are making. And listen, we all know you know a bunch of guys after their playing careers, and
Hmm.
physically they're not the same, and you'll see the aches and the pains and the limitations and and all that kind of stuff, and you'll see them getting hip replacements and knee replacements and all kinds of things because the game just does it does wear on you big time.
It really does, and people don't see that side of it. I write about a lot of these younger players, high school and college guys, and then whenever I run into their fathers who were players before them, you just see them the way that they struggle physically. A lot of them just lasting issues with their bodies, like you said, so many different surgeries that they have after their game is long past them. And it's sad. It's sad to see, some of those guys beat up, and that's why I think the ultimate thing here for the NFL is to take care of a lot of these guys. They have a lot of money in that league. Financially, they should be able to take care of their players and their medical bills and all the things that they have to deal with long after their careers are over. And I think that's important. We've seen a lot of guys. Oh, you covered a lot of the Dolphins. I covered a lot of the Canes. We've seen a lot of guys just never really go on to live a normal life after football because of what they have to deal with every single day in terms of pain and medication and all the things that their body deals with. And so that's a sacrifice they make to feed their families, to make money, to get out of whatever situation they're in growing up. And I just wish all of these guys the best because like you said, people don't really see it. People don't see the the after effects of football.
No, I'm with you there. All right, let's get into a little Canes talk. The Cormani watch. What is
Yep.
the latest on the Cormani watch?
Yeah, we'll see what he decides to announce here on the 15th. That's what he told me and a couple of other writers who were up at the Under Armour All American game, that he'll be making an announcement then as far as his future is concerned. I mean, everything I've heard internally and externally from Miami is they're still confident he's going to sign with them. So again, was this all just a hiccup over money? Was this a hiccup over something else? I don't know. I just know that ultimately, from talking to the kid myself for several minutes in Orlando last week, he said it wasn't Colorado. He said it wasn't his grades. It wasn't all these other things that have been thrown out there. He said, you'll see on the 15th, everything will be fine. So we'll see. We'll see if he keeps his word. I know this. He's a very talented player. He's got an NFL frame in terms of height and length. He's got to put on some weight. I don't think he comes in and plays right away if he signs with Miami, but I certainly think he plays a lot his freshman year if he signs with the Hurricanes.
This is not Willie Williams, right?
No, this isn't Willie Williams. Cormani's not have that kind of surprise history.
No, I
So
don't care about the history. I'm just talking about just a flat out bust.
I
Just-
don't necessarily think so. Oh, I think having watched him play, there's things about his game that he needs to get better at. He's very focused just on his position. Having watched him play in the state championship game, he's a guy who wants to dominate the guy in front of him. Doesn't pay enough attention to the game around him. He had a quarterback run right behind him for a touchdown in the state championship game because he was too busy blocking a smaller receiver out of bounds. He was doing things in the game that made me say, these are things he needs to be coached up on, right? He needs to improve. But from a pure talent perspective, a pure speed, size, all the things that you want in a cornerback, a guy who has athleticism, tremendous athleticism, he's got all those gifts. But it's the same thing like anything else. So it's the environment you walk into, and can they nurture you and make you the best player that you can be, and do you have that dog in you to become that guy? Those are all things that we'll find out with Cormani McClain. I know he's highly motivated. Him and his mother want him to make it. They want to get paid. They want to make some money and have a career in this game. So I think from that perspective, his head's in the right place. But we'll see ultimately what he becomes.
Yeah, because Tate Martell, Jake Garcia, Willie Williams. Over the years, there's all this hype and everything, and we get people going crazy. I remember at Onside, our boy, damn it, what's the kid's name that loves UM?
The kid from Columbus High, yes.
No, the guy that was on with Toast. What's his name, Sean?
Oh, Marshall.
Marsh. Yeah. Marsh loved, Jake Garcia, and it was like when Jake, committed, he was like jumping up and down, dove in a pool and everything and all this stuff. And it was like, and the Willie Williams thing too was like this, oh my God, we're getting Tate Martell and all that. When we go to the extreme of that one recruit, do you remember one that we went for that one recruit and it got all that attention and he turned out to be a great player? Because, I'm thinking of Tate Martell came with all that hype, Jake Garcia with all that hype, Willie Williams with all that hype, and it was,
Well,
I don't even want to go back to Magic Benton, and I don't want to go back to, some other ones back in the day that I could go mention and stuff like that. Freeman Brown or something. I don't even know if we went that crazy for Freeman Brown, but I'm just, you know what I mean? I think hyped up about the one guy. That one guy never really comes through. Is all I'm saying.
The bust percentage in general. Max Olson, who works with me at the Athletic, he does a great job every single year where he goes back and he actually looks to see how many of these guys lived up to their potential, right? What they were ranked, how many of them turned out to be busts. And he re-ranks the classes 4 years later, and it's always one of my favorite reads because I think a lot of us just forget, right? Oh, this guy was so hyped, he came in. Right. What did he end up doing?
I don't forget it. I don't forget it. I've brought it up to you many times over the years. Right. This has always been a sticking point with me because I laugh at grown men getting excited about high school players they've never seen in their lives. They have no idea what those kids have between their ears. They don't know what kind of player or people they're going to be, and it's just silly.
What I was going to tell you is just from an analytical perspective, right? If you want to think about this as a fan, Max, when he does these hit or miss, right? Did they hit on this recruit? Did they not? I mean, even Alabama and Georgia and the schools that really recruit the best players in the country lately, the Clemsons of the world, they're hitting at 70%. So there's 30% of their class will walk out the door having pretty much done nothing. at that school will hit the transfer portal. So if you think that's what the best number is, Miami, I've seen them in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 40s. I mean, you go back and you look at these classes the way I have and the way I break it down. I mean, there are a lot of misses at the University of Miami. So really, you can't go wrong with saying, hey, this guy might be a bust, because chances are pretty good that that's going to happen.
Zev Lumeski. He was supposed to be like, remember that guy?
Zev
Zev Lumeski,
No,
right?
you got me
Big
on that
ass
one.
offensive lineman. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Back in the day. All right. Now
Yeah.
okay.
That was another guy who was supposed to be like, he's gonna block out the
Well,
sun and everything. And it was like
Sean,
Freeman Brown. It just like, yeah. Freeman Brown was Carroll City,
I believe
I
so,
think.
or Norland. It was definitely the northwest part of the county.
Yeah.
The one guy I was going to mention is Chantrell Henderson, right? We made such a big deal about him. He was the
There you
number one
go.
recruit in the country when Miami got him, and he started for a couple of years, but really went to the NFL, I think, as a 7th-round pick or 6th
Yeah.
round pick to Buffalo, and didn't really have much of a career. I mean, look, it's an inexact science, and ultimately the guys who win in this game are really good at identifying the non-busts. They have the fewest busts. That's really what it comes down to. Do you have the fewest amount of busts? And that usually leads to success.
All right. Well, Cormani, you said, they're trying to make the best business deal possible. You've got an interesting article in The Athletic talking about NILs and all that
Yeah.
at the All-American. What the hell was that thing called? I
The
read it
the Under Armour
yesterday.
All-American game, yes,
Right,
in
right.
Orlando.
And I read it yesterday, and you had like there's somebody making 400,000 a year. Like,
Yeah,
give us. I know you don't want to give away the whole article because that's why we
sure.
want you to subscribe, because you got great material. But
Yeah.
just drop a nugget or two from that article, or maybe a nugget you left off that article.
Sure. Well, I'll say this. So I went there with the hope of getting some answers, because none of these kids want to talk about NIL on the record. They're not gonna attach their name to how much money was floated their way and what school it was. So I granted all of these kids anonymity. I said, listen, I just want to know the truth. What really happened in your recruitment? Who threw the most money at you? Who came after you the hardest with money and talked NIL the most? And really, I mean, I'll say there was a lot of stuff that was left out of that article because my editors didn't want to start the controversy in terms of, you know, pointing fingers at particular schools and particular people. But I will say this: I mean, there was one player, one of the most elite skill players in the country, who said his parents and his high school coaches were called on signing day when he was gonna, there's not supposed to be any contact 3 days before signing day, but these, by school saying, hey, we'll pay you $1 million to flip to us. And so really up until the very last second, this kid's got to decide, am I worth $1 million signing deal right now? Or do I sign with the school that I really think is going to help me become the best player I can be, and the coaches that I really want to play for? And so the article basically, I talked to 15 different guys, okay, 15 different All-Americans, all different kinds of position, offensive
By the way,
linemen, defensive linemen.
was that a Saudi Arabian high school?
It was not a Saudi Arabian high school. It was
Okay, I'm just checking.
yes, it was
They're throwing a little money around. They gave Cristiano Ronaldo, 200 million for 2 years. I figured, the Saudis are getting into high school football now. $1 million, that's just kind of right up their alley. So I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. So to me, the interesting thing was hearing, which guys, and it is what you think it is. It is the 5-star. It is the quarterbacks. It is the running backs. It is the guys. Those are the guys that have the most money thrown at them. But there are offensive linemen and defensive linemen and guys at other positions that got some pretty good money thrown at them as well throughout
Wait a
the
minute. Wait
process.
a minute. Hold on a second. Are you telling me that running backs are making more money in college than in the NFL now?
They could. They could.
Oh, okay.
They
All
could.
right. Okay.
They could be. But
All
what I found interesting more than anything else is how mature a lot of these guys are. Like you say to yourself, why are these guys the best players in the country? Some of these guys are pretty smart, and some of their answers were kind of refreshing. Like some of the things that I asked them regarding NIL and decision making process and what advice they would give to future classes. So if you want to read about what's really happening in recruiting and and
Good
some of
article.
the things that are going on behind the scenes without these kids having to attach their name to it and get in trouble, I suggest you check out the story.
Yep. Check it out. You got another nugget that you didn't put in the story?
Well, I'll say this. Miami, I was
I
surprised.
know how you are. You overdo so you can write your article. So there's probably all
Yes.
kinds of you know what you are? You are what I am as a like mechanic putting things together. Like my wife
Yes.
will bring something over and say, build it. And then I'll
Uh-huh.
build it. And then there's like 8 parts left over. And she's like, well, wait a minute. What's you left all these? It doesn't need it. Go ahead. It'll work. Whatever, And obviously it's going to break down, because you put me to build it. But in your case, that's you. You put together the article and then there's all kinds of nuggets that you left out because if you had to put
Sure.
those in, it would have been an article that was like 87 pages and your editor's losing his mind and you can't do it that long. So
Right.
go ahead. Give us a nugget you left out because I know you.
Well, I'll say this: the schools, because I know people are going to want to read that article and say who are the biggest quote unquote cheaters, even though all of this is legal now, right? The people are still going to come away saying, "Oh, this guy's a cheater," and that guy. What I would say this is as far as Miami's concerned, I only had a couple of players who really said Miami went after them with money, and I know that there's this idea of John Ruiz and all the spending and all that kind of stuff. To be honest with you, I heard more complimentary things about Mario Cristobal as a recruiter. There were a lot of kids who told me they really like Mario, and that's what drew them to Miami as far as being one of their finalists or one of the schools that they considered. But in terms of money, Michigan State, Texas A&M, Miami, Oregon, those are the schools that I heard were dishing out some of the biggest offers in terms of spending.
Okay. All right. Playoffs. What'd you think of those 2 games this weekend, dude? I mean, that was awesome. Like,
Yeah,
awesome.
that was definitely the best weekend. You'd have to say in terms of college football playoff games. I mean, either one of them would have been spectacular championship games
Yes.
back in the day. I mean, that probably would have been the greatest. The Ohio State Georgia game probably would have gone down as the greatest championship game in college football history if it was a championship game. To come down to a
Yeah.
final kick, to be an 83 point shootout, the amount of offense, the comeback, all of those things. I think the one thing that I look forward to here as it expands to 12 is to see, will we get more of those kind of games where it's shootouts and teams just kind of going all out, bringing out all the stops, right? Scoring as much as they can to win these games. And then really what's going to happen beyond that, right? Like ultimately, I think here what you're going to see is the Alabamas and the Georgias and the teams that have depth. Those are the teams that are going to survive these games because that's the one thing you forget about. We started the show talking about Damar Hamlin with his horrendous injury and what happened to him and the cardiac arrest and everything that happened to him. Well, think about these kids' bodies, right? They're already playing 13, 14 games. Some of these teams are. What's going to happen when you add a 15th, a 16th, or 17th game through the playoff? Ultimately, I think what we're going to see here is the teams with the most depth are the ones that are going to survive these playoffs. But it was a hell of a semifinal. I enjoyed it. It was highly entertaining to watch both of those games, and it was a great weekend for college football. I think it reminded football fans who may not pay attention to anything but fantasy football in the NFL that college can be exciting too.
I thought that was actually, and listen, my favorite part about this also, TCU came through
Mm-hmm.
because that's really important because then we get caught up in this whole thing that, we can't even give a team that's what we consider is not the elite team in the conference, but the lesser team in the conference
Yeah.
an opportunity because we're already in the rut of, yeah, no, dude, Central Florida's and the Boise States and all, they don't belong there. Let's not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. And so this is very important that TCU not just hung in there, but then won the damn game and won it in a fashion that you're like going, well, wait a minute, Georgia 13.5. I know they're awesome, but dude, this TCU team can score some points. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm going TCU, so that's how good they were that it puts people in a position, like, oh, you know what? Hey, maybe this team can actually get it done. So that's good for next Monday.
Yeah, it provides hope for everybody, and there were some interesting articles in the Athletic just about Sam Khan, who is our resident techspert, as we call him there in Texas. He did a great article just breaking down the talent on TCU's roster. There's only 17 blue chip players, high school recruits on that roster. So it shows you that you don't always have to be loaded with 60, 70 blue chip players on your roster to advance to the championship game. You can have a lot of seniors, a lot of transfers. I think they had 13 transfers on that team. That those things can be just as valuable to helping you win, and get to the championship game. But again, it's going to be interesting to me how this thing, once we expand to 12, how it's going to play out. Will a TCU be able to pull something off like that? Will another, lesser, I would say, Power 5 team get to the championship game and get through 2 playoff games to get there? Could that be the case? But for now, I think for everybody who's a college football fan, it's refreshing. It's not the same teams in the final. It's 2 different teams, and there's a reason to watch.
Yep, I'm with you there. All right. Any other recruiting news for the Canes?
Well, they're going to have a couple of people visiting, I think, this weekend. One of them, I know Gabby Urrutia just put the name out, so I'll say it now, but it's the Big Ten cornerback that I mentioned to you several weeks ago, Terry Roberts. He's a veteran guy who dealt with some injury history from Iowa. He's supposed to be visiting this weekend. And Gabby reported a defensive lineman, Isaiah Nicholas, a guy who, another big body. They need defensive tackles. They just need bodies there more than anything else to add depth. So they're supposed to be visiting here this weekend, according to Gabby. I haven't checked in with my guys at Miami because I've been enjoying the New Year's. But at some point here, I'll have a conversation to see what's happening in the next few weeks. Again, I think there'll be more guys. I don't want to say run off, but certainly encouraged to graduate at the end of spring. So you'll have the next few months to keep adding to this roster. And look, there's some names, the guys that are jumping in the portal. There was one a little while ago that I tweeted out. I saw he had mentioned he was going to be exiting. He was part of the 2022 recruiting class. Anthony Lucas from Texas A&M. He was a big defensive lineman, top 60 ranked kid in the country. His father, I think, attended the University of Miami as a student, didn't play there, but he wants to, I think, come to Miami. I think there's a chance that Miami could end up getting him, through the transfer portal. So, there's going to be, I told you, there's going to be names that pop in that people aren't expecting. That's a good example of somebody that I think the coaching staff hopes pops into the transfer portal and they're able to go out and get.
All right, good stuff. What are you working on over at The Athletic so folks can check you out?
Well, I'm working on a recruiting roundtable right now with my editor, Mitch Light, who worked for Sports Illustrated for many, many years, and he's our recruiting editor. Grace Rayner, Ari Wasserman, our 2 other national recruiting writers. I'm doing a lot more recruiting now for The Athletic here in the 2023 year. So there'll be a roundtable on that. There'll be sort of a roster breakdown on the University of Miami with all the additions. I did that last week. I just got to actually write the article now. I'm done with my breakdown. So it's just a matter of putting that together. I'll have a new podcast up soon.
All right, there you go. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. We'll talk on Friday, my friend. Appreciate you immensely.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You got it. There you go. Manny Navarro and our Canes Wear Miami Hurricanes report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.